Welcome, if this is your first time watching Who Remembers, the series where we discuss and break down my thoughts on games that are at least 10 years old or older. Some we are revisiting, and some we are playing for the first time. I'll try to keep it mostly spoiler-free by avoiding any major plot points. So let's get started. So I don't know what's more terrifying, this costume or trying to beat this damn game. Today we look back on one of the most polarizing titles on the NES, the original OG Friday the 13th. Now, I didn't grow up with this game and actually played it for the first time this year. It seems to have a real cult following, which some people love it and some people hate it. After spending a few nights at Camp Crystal Lake, I think I fall somewhere in between. Originally released in 1989 for the Nintendo Entertainment System, Friday the 13th was developed by Atlas and published by LJN. Often found in the bargain bins at local game stores at the time, and known for its colorful label, and of course, Purple Jason. Yes, I said it, Jason is purple. Which is now an iconic look, and is sold on t-shirts and even had its own Lego figure. The Purple Jason was terrifying kids throughout the 80s and 90s with its confusing map layout and strange inventory system. The game itself is pretty vague with the introduction to start the game. It basically tells you to save all the children from the large cabins and light all the fireplaces. After doing some research, I discovered you actually don't have to focus on lighting the fireplaces, but yet instead you need to focus on defeating Jason completely, which means bringing down his health bar completely 3 times over the course of those 3 days. Also, instead of focusing on the fireplaces, focusing on getting the torch first, which deals the most damage outside of the pitchfork, which is overrated because you don't attain it until the final day. I also found out you want to try to avoid fighting Jason on the final day in the cabins, because he is faster and nearly impossible to hit in this punch-out style of combat. Before we go any further, let's break down the 6 different camp counselors. Friday the 13th has 6 playable characters, with only 2 to 3 of them being worth a damn. Here are my rankings for the best camp counselors to use based on their attributes. Number 1, we have Chrissy. She's obviously the fastest one and throws pretty quickly as well. Next you have Laura, and then Mark. Apparently Mark is the fastest walking one in the game, so technically you could have him in that top spot, but basically these top 3 are the ones you want to use. And then we have Paul, Debbie, and George rounding it out. Most of this is based on running and throwing speed. The game also offers a variety of weapons throughout the playthrough, like rocks, knives, a machete, an axe, a torch, and even a pitchfork. Some you obtain by defeating enemies, and others require a certain sequence of events and locations. Same thing with the items. I also discovered jumping around will make certain items appear. I know it's strange, but it's definitely true. The game also has a handful of items you can find. You can find notes, a lighter, keys, flashlight, vitamins, and even a sweater by defeating Jason's mom on day 2 in the cave. By the way, can we talk about Pamela Voorhees? Because technically speaking, she should be the killer in this game and not Jason. Spoiler alert, but Jason doesn't actually kill anyone in the original Friday the 13th. The killer is actually Jason's mom, Pamela Voorhees. So really this should be called Friday the 13th Part 2. Sorry, just needed to get that off my chest. Now, I know I'm being a little harsh on the game, but overall, I was kind of impressed with the many layers and depth of this game. I actually like the music and think it's pretty damn good for a horror game made in 1989. There's multiple ways to beat the game, and Jason's encounters are somewhat random and roguelike, only adding to the replay value. It's not exactly groundbreaking, but the cabins had a 3D element to them, and the cave system had a kind of like a Zelda 2 vibe to it. You had multiple locations to visit throughout the map, with the main path, small cabins, large cabins, a cave, the woods, and yes, you can even hop into a boat to cross Crystal Lake. Plus, a day and night cycle, it's hard to find a lot of NES games with this much variety. Now let's get back to beating Jason for a minute. Apparently the best way to defeat Jason is first to get the torch, and then basically try and find Jason on the main path, fight him with the torch, and continue to chase after him, if you're fast enough. Basically you can spam this and keep lowering his health bar, because the torch actually takes off one life bar from Jason, which is the most powerful weapon in the game, outside of the pitchfork. So basically how Jason works is he travels around the camp counterclockwise. So you want to basically go the opposite direction so you'll run into him. You want to try to fight him outside of the cabin if possible. Now all that being said, this is much harder than it sounds. I tried for 2 nights in a row to defeat Jason, but unfortunately I was not able to do so. I did, however, learn how to obtain the torch, but I always struggled to actually obtain the item before Jason killed 1 or 2 camp counselors or children in the cabin. You want to enter the 3rd day with at least 4 out of the 6 children or camp counselors still alive. It is quite the balancing act trying to keep your torch and other weapons without dying in the cabins trying to rescue people. Friday the 13th definitely has that stamp of NES hard, and I'm not quite sure if I'll ever be able to beat this game, honestly. But I did have a great time trying. The atmosphere and music alone are fantastic for an NES game. Really capture the essence of one of the original slasher films of the 80s. It's one of my favorite eras of horror, honestly, in a time where movies were pure without any CGI or special effects. You have to appreciate a time in video games where movie tie-ins were at an all-time high, and fun to play around with. Halloween is also my favorite time of the year. Watching classic horror films, playing scary games, and wearing hoodies never gets old to me. I had a lot of fun making this video and playing Friday the 13th for the first time. I even went back and watched the original film to get into the mood. Hope you enjoyed walking down memory lane with me, and maybe got to even experience it for the first time just like me. Either way, thanks for stopping by. Make sure to like this video if you enjoyed it. Consider subscribing to the channel for more scenic drives down nostalgic lane. Comment down below your favorite Friday the 13th memory, or your experience playing the game. I want to wish you all a happy Halloween, and until next time, stay blessed.